Okay, we'll get started, I guess. And then if other people join, they will join in. So I will start real quick with just the process of what we're going to do today. Thank you for those already on. If you have to drop off, it is being recorded. And so you can watch it at a later date if you don't get to see what we are going to talk about. So there will be that. Please mute yourself. Nobody likes the background noise. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand throughout or throw it in the chat. If we don't know the answer right then and there, we will get back to you. But I don't care if anybody chimes in throughout and asks questions because we're here to learn. So there's that. We're going to do two parts. One, mistakes that we've frequently seen happen with new hire flight attendants, and then a couple education pieces for frequently asked questions that we got before this. And with that being said, I'll start with introductions. So my name's Justin Patterson. I'm the base president in Chicago. I've been flying since 2013 and done union work since 2018. Been the base president for about a year. And I like these types of forums so people can learn and we can all, I don't know, the more we know, the better we can defend ourselves. So, Dre,
Oh, I knew you were going to say how long you've been flying too. So
you don't have to.
I'm Dre Howard. I'm the base vice president. The end of this month, this is April. So the end of this month, I start 41 years. I know I don't look like it, and I'm going to go with that in my head. So I've been doing base work. I don't even know how long. I've been the base vice president. I was base president for a few minutes and then back to base vice president that I love to do. I truly love, love, love doing base work. And so there you have it. If you have meetings while you're on probation, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be with me.
Stephanie is a base rep in Chicago who helps out. I don't know if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I'm usually the one that you talk to on the linked phone, so just putting a name to a face. I've been doing union work for a long time, like Justin, 2013 hire, so senior new hire, if you will.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we will get started. The first thing we're going to start with is recurring mistakes that we've seen new hires get caught up in, not done intentionally, stuff happens. So the biggest one is acknowledgement of trips that cause mistrips or confusion. Even if it doesn't cause a mistrip, it still causes confusion. So there's two different times where we have to acknowledge trips. The day before, once rota runs, or when our wrap begins. So the day before scenario, I will say it's pretty simple. So there's two ways. Rota runs, we have to acknowledge by 7:30 p.m. Once you have something on your schedule, if it's a wrap, we don't have to acknowledge it. If it's a trip, standby, or a trip, we have to acknowledge by 7:30 p.m. The only caveat to that is if we're on a trip when rota runs, we have until, oh no, we have to acknowledge by 10:30 p.m. I'm so sorry. It will finish by 7:30 p.m. And then if you're on a trip today, I have 1 hour after that trip ends to acknowledge that trip. So if my trip doesn't end until 10 p.m., I have until 11 to acknowledge that trip. So that's a big one that sometimes slips through the cracks there. That's the day before scenario that I can think of. Dre, do you want to say anything to that one?
Well, just be clear because we have an hour, but then we have our 15-minute debrief.
Yes, so it's 1 hour after your sequence concludes. So 15 minutes domestic, 30 for international. You have 1 hour to do that. The next one that happens is day of. So after not even after your wraps began. The day began and you're on wrap today. There's wrap A, B, C, and D. Wrap A is the only one we don't have to check at the start of our wrap. So at wrap A, you can just have your phone on and go to sleep and that they can call you. They have to call you. Wrap B, C, and D, because they start at or after 5 a.m., you have to acknowledge at the start of your wrap. So you open crew portal, acknowledge what you have there. Then if you have nothing, great. You can put your phone down and you don't have to watch it at all the rest of the day. If you get assigned anything, they will call you. What sometimes happens though is I've seen people where I'm on wrap, I see they gave me a trip because I get the alerts, I'm watching my schedule, I'm concerned, I want to know what's going on with my schedule. People then acknowledge it and then sit around waiting for the phone call. They're not going to call if you acknowledge it. So just be mindful if you're in there fiddling with your schedule and you acknowledge it, whether mistakenly or on purpose, they're not going to call because you've acknowledged it. So just be mindful when you're in there on Crew Portal that if you are acknowledging it, they're not going to call. So keep that in mind. The one other piece with this that I just saw, 2 days ago, when your wrap starts, you have an obligation to check in. 5, 10, 3. You have 2 hours from that time to get to the airport. So it does not matter what the sign-in of that trip that you were assigned is, you still have 2 hours to get there. So at 10 o'clock, you'll check your RAPC. If you have a departure of 12:05, that's great. You have 2 hours to get to the airport. So if obviously you're going to be later than the scheduled sign-in time, that's okay. Scheduling knows we have 2 hours. All you have to do is keep them in the loop with that. Don't think it's an illegal reassignment or assignment that you can deny because it, is a short call out. We don't have short call out. We have 2 hours to get to the airport. So keep that in mind. Dre, do you have anything with that?
I just want to reiterate too, or say that if they give you that 2 hours to get to the airport, they should automatically send a note to your attendance manager that you might not make the sign-in, right? Because we don't want you to have a late report. Please just reach out to your attendance manager and just say, by the way, they called me at this time, I got here at this time, just to make sure you don't have an LR, because quite often scheduling goes on to something else and they forget. And then your
Yes.
manager will schedule a meeting that's going to be stupid and there shouldn't be a meeting.
Yes, yes. And with that, I'm going to say one other thing and then I'll open it up for any questions. So everybody has the ability to confirm and check to see if they have acknowledged anything. So Stephanie just put in the chat the ECS receipts. We all now have ECS on our tablets. So if you want to confirm that you've acknowledged your trip, I always encourage people to take screenshots because it's one, you have proof that you did it, but sometimes the system, people don't allow it to process fully. So they'll acknowledge and then close out the system right away. And so it didn't make its way all the way to scheduling. Make sure you take that screenshot, refresh, and then in ECS, we do get receipts when you do acknowledge something. It will say acknowledged by flight attendant. So go into ECS, and Stephanie just put in there the hotline. Read it, and it kind of walks you through of where to see it and what exactly it will say. So if you're on reserve and you get a trip and you've acknowledged it, and especially on probation, you want to be triple sure that you've done everything correct. You've got that screenshot, go to ECS, it will show you acknowledged that trip. So kudos to you, you've done everything correct. That's an additional resource there. So keep that in mind. And then there's also one other hotline that we'll put in there for reserve when we have to acknowledge trips, just to reiterate everything that I said there so people can read it after the fact. Before we move on to the next piece, are there any questions on acknowledging or scenarios or anything that they want clarity on that I maybe missed or didn't elaborate on? If there are, raise your hand or throw it in the chat and we will answer. Okay. I'm going to take that as a no. All right. And if you come up with a question later, feel free to ask. The other big one with reserves, let's say you don't acknowledge, mistakes do happen, and you get a mistrip. The first call you make when you get a mistrip is to scheduling. Ask what's going on because maybe, you didn't realize you'd made a mistake or something had gone incorrect. call scheduling and say, hey, what's going on with my schedule today? It's off crew portal. And they will say whatever happened. You didn't acknowledge, whatever it might be, they will give you their insight on that. Immediately go back on call. So when you go back on wrap, you will then be eligible to get a trip again. They're not going to do this automatically unless you call them. So keep that in mind. You have to call and say, I want to go back on wrap. When this happens, I always encourage people, try to get a trip. If you go aggressive, if you do anything, whatever you get something. Because while on probation, any event still is kind of treated the same. A late report versus a missed trip looks a lot better. Because what happens when you end up getting a trip is the missed trip will change from a 2-point missed trip to a 1-point late report. So keep that in mind. It would still result in a meeting because probation, they will hold you to that different standard and have questions, but it looks a lot better from the company perspective when you can say, a mistake was made, but I stepped up, I cleaned it up, and I did fly that day. So keep that in mind. And that is in the attendance and performance policy that a missed trip will change to a late report. So that's company policy that they will do that for you. Any questions on missed trips, or Dre, do you want to say anything there?
Just something really quick. So if you are on probation, they have attendance and performance in one bundle. Once you're off probation, those separate, meaning you have an attendance manager and you have a performance manager. So attendance gets points, performance gets advisories. While you're on probation, whatever you get is called an infraction. But when you're off probation, the points are waiting for you. So as Justin said, a late report is 1 point. In a meeting, they're going to talk about infractions. You're still getting the point. Editor confuses me all the time over that, but you're still going to be sitting with a point. So once again, attendance gets points, performance gets advisories. That's all I have on that.
Okay, perfect. And are there any questions on missed trips there? If there are, throw them in the chat, raise your hand, or just speak up. I don't care. I want everybody to ask any questions that you have. Because I will say, if you have a question, 10 other people also will have the same question. So there are no silly questions here. I'm going to use that to kind of segue a little bit into something else that happens. Late reports. There are 2 kinds of late reports. And if I did your in-doc, you've heard me say this, but I'm going to say it again. There's a late report that you don't deserve, and then a late report that you do deserve. We've all been late. Stuff happens. Life happens. If you are late because of the train, you just got stuck in traffic, you were getting a coffee, whatever it is, still keep an eye on your record and make sure that whatever happened, try to avoid that moving forward. So those are the kind that, stuff happens, but you're on probation. We don't want them to hold that against us. Contractually, we get 1 free late report where there is no point associated with it. So that's nice. Like Dre said, once you're off probation, it won't be a point waiting for you, but it still is on your record. It's eaten up that banked point. Try not to get late reports that we can avoid. The second type of late report is one that we don't deserve, and this is what Dre spoke about. If we get that call out and it overlaps with the report time of the trip, the company does send a note forward, or they should send a note forward. So if I acknowledge my trip at 10 o'clock, I don't have to sign in for 2 hours, but maybe the trip had an 11:30 sign in. The company should send a note to the attendance managers and the company saying, hey, we called Justin at this time. He has 2 hours. Waive anything as long as he signs in within those 2 hours. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes they get lost. So keep an eye on everything. If you report within that 2 hours, you're walking to the gate, you click sign in at 1 hour and 40 minutes. The system still might immediately flag it as a late report. It's a computer. It's not them being malicious or anything like that. What you can do is then immediately follow up with your attendance manager and say, hey, they called me at 10. I reported at 10:40. It overlapped with the sign in. Can you please review? They will review and delete that late report if one was generated. So just keep that in mind. A way to check that is on mobile CCI. When you go, you click pre-flight documents. Hold on, let me do it so I can make sure I don't mess anything up. You will click more. Yeah, click more. And then you will click HI commands. The fourth one down is HI10M. If after you sign in, you get a late report, that will show up immediately. So get in the habit if you get one of those weird situations with a short call, check your HI10M, see if it did trigger a late report. If it did, call your manager right then and there. Hey, this happened. They called me at this time. It triggered this. Can you please review? They know the rules where it comes to reserves. Put it on their radar so they can delete it. Again, that's in mobile CCI. That's a good place to get in the habit of checking if something funky happens like that. Any questions on late reports? Or the 2-hour call out thing?
And I want to add one quick thing. If you commute, and we're not going to talk about commuting, once you were in NDOC, we gave you the packet, we have commuting hints in there, but if you are commuting, you know we have a commuter policy that allows us in 12 rolling months to have 3 missed commuter incidents. That only covers missed trips. So let's say, because I'm coming across more of these, let's say you had 2 flights, one you couldn't get on, one you did get on, it diverted, but it got you to base. You made it, but you were late for sign-in. They're going to give you a late report. So I will tell you, you do what you need to do, but the commuter policy only handles missed trips. They will give you a late report if you make it in. It's a two-edged sword, right? None of us wants to get points. However, you're on probation and you're just starting your career. The company expectation is, regardless if you're late, you still make it to base and you still make your sign in, or you still make your standby. But just know that you will get a late report, even though you did everything you could to make it to base.
And if that happens, don't just accept it. You can still say, hey, this happened, my flight was late, this happened. That way it's documented. That way it's you've made the effort, you followed up with your manager, you showed them what flights you took. Make sure that you always follow up with them. Don't just
Roll over.
assume or let it happen. Make sure you tell them what's going on and see if they can make any exceptions, review it, tell them what happened with your flight. That it did qualify for the commuter policy, you know, that you did come to work. So we want to make sure that you always have those conversations with management.
And the sooner you do, the better. Like if you wait days, right, there are more eyes on it. The sooner you can reach out to them, the better it is. And it's just like if Justin and I are driving to work and we get a flat tire, we make it in, but we're late. The first thing we're going to do is go to those attendance managers and go, look at my record, look at my reputation, you know I would have made here, and just see if they can mitigate for you.
Yes, yes. Any questions on that before we move on? The next piece we're going to go to is like a couple education pieces that people have asked about. Anything there? If there is, chime in, raise your hand, throw it in the chat. This one we're going to do, so I'm going to enter this into the chat. I just put a when do I go illegal PDF. I'm going to share my screen here to kind of show everyone. Before I do, I want to start with a couple things. One, make sure that, so the question is, you know, we're on sequences, we go illegal, we have delays. We want to know what time does that door need to be closed. The 2 things that everybody needs to remember, 1, always convert it to the same time zone. And 2, I would encourage you to download a free time calculator. I use Apple, just search free time calculator, 1 will pop up. Android, search free time calculator, 1 will pop up. And that way you can do the math easier. And I'm going to show you right now what math and how it kind of works, just to make it easier. We get this question all the time, when do I go illegal? It's not that hard. It's just a weird thing. We're not frequently doing math with time. So I don't fault people for having these questions because it's a weird one. We don't do this very often. And until you've practiced it, you maybe won't realize how easy it is to check that. So download the free time calculator and save that PDF. It's also on the APFA website. There's lots of places that explain the legalities of everything. But I will show this, and throughout, if you have any questions, interrupt me during, because if you get lost at any point, we'll back up, and that way we can make sure that we're all on the same page here. So share my screen. Okay. All right. Can people see this? Yes.
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can see it.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do two types. We're going to do domestic and we're going to do an international sequence. So when you look at an HI3, and this is also found when you look at your HI1, you can click that all of those are hyperlinks. So you can click the hyperlink through your HI1 in mobile CCI, or you can click HI3 and that will show what sequence you're currently on. The HI3, which shows this information, is way more helpful than Crew Portal. When people look at things or send screenshots of Crew Portal, that contains hardly any information. This is the helpful stuff here. So let's say you're on this Seattle turn. We're going to look here, it's domestic. So that shows that's an indicator for the whole sequence, not the day. But for today, it's all domestic, that's what we're working with. So that being said, over here on the chart, there's two, domestic, international. We're, like we just said, domestic. The next is the report time. Oh, I did not mean to do that. The report time of it is based on home base. So for us, we reported at 6:30 in the morning, Chicago time. But we are going to have a delay in Seattle. We want to know what time the door needs to be closed in Seattle. And I'm not looking at anything, so if anybody has questions, pipe up. Otherwise, I won't see it. So the question is, what time does the door need to be closed in Seattle? So 6:30 Chicago time is 2 hours ahead in Seattle time. So if we signed in at 6:30 Chicago, it was actually 4:30 in the morning Seattle time. Yes, that's different here, but remember, it's home base time that we need to worry about. So that being said, if we signed in at 6:30, it puts us here. That means we can go to 15 hours on duty, okay, in actual operations. So the sign-in was 4:30, pardon my handwriting, 4:30 a.m. So on your time calculator, all you type in is 0430. Okay. The next, what's our operational duty max? 15 hours. We're going to enter 15 hours plus 15 hours. All right. So that gives us 1930. And remember, this is all Seattle time. And then we're going to subtract the debrief. For this, it's domestic. Today is domestic. And we can confirm right here, the release time is 18:01. That's 15 minutes after this. So our debrief is 15 minutes. So 15 minutes minus 1.5. All right, so 19:15. That looks terrible. All right, so our scheduled flying time is on your HI3. I don't know why there's a reschedule. It doesn't matter. The line that says sched, that is the one we are going off of. So 4:30 is the scheduled flying time. So we're going to subtract 4 hours and 30 minutes from 19:15 minus 4:30. All right, so that gives us, I should have written that. So that gives us 14:45 Seattle time that the door needs to be closed. That looks terrible, but we can all see what we did there. So if that's what time the door needs to be closed, if it gets close to that, I would say within 30-45 minutes and you haven't started boarding, that would be a good time to reach out to crew tracking and have a conversation on legalities. That's if you want to VE or you want to not. Basically, you just want to say, hey, let's talk. We haven't started boarding and we go illegal at this time. I always encourage people don't raise the alarm too close to or too far away, especially if, it could encourage the company to try to do anything shady. So just keep an eye and always know when you're going illegal. When it gets closer to, keep the pilots informed and make those calls to crew tracking. Because for this case, the door needs to be closed by 14:45. If it closes, if the door is still open after that time, you technically are illegal. Have a conversation with crew tracking, the pilot. That would be when, if VE is going to be offered, VE is voluntary extension, or if you are going to be removed due to an illegality. Are there any questions on this sequence or how we did the math or anything like that? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So we're going to then do the same thing for international just to show the differences of them on how to do this math. So same chart, same concept applies. This one, however, shows international. That does not mean every day is held to the international legalities because it is based on duty periods. So this one has 3 duty periods. 2 of them touch an NIPD or an international section. So that means we go down here, you can check it. And that's why it says duty period right there. Because if you have a duty period with that, that's what legalities apply. So the first 2 have international in their days. That means it's non-long range. And we can go to 16 hours in actual operations for these 2 days. This one has no international, no NIPD. Therefore, it reverts to the 15 hours domestic. So these 2 days we can go to 16. This one we can go to 15. I'm going to say, does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, chime in, ask a question, please. So we're going to do math for, I don't know, this first day for what time we go illegal. All right, so there's that. Clear this. All right, so for this one, our sign-in time was 7:30 Chicago time. And for international, it doesn't really matter sign-in time. It's going to just still be these rules. So we signed in at 7:30 Chicago time. And let's say we're in Miami. That's the last leg. We're going to Kingston. We need to know what time the door needs to be closed in Miami. So if it was 7:30 in Chicago, that means it was 8:30 in the morning in Miami. So we're going to write 8:30 on here and then here. All right, so our operational maximum is for a non-long range, because that's what we're doing today, is 16 hours plus 16. All right, so 24:30 is that. So bad. All right, so then what is our debrief? Our last leg is international. We can confirm that because it shows our release is 19:24, but we park at 18:54. That's 30 minutes. So we've confirmed that it's 30 minutes for our debrief. All right, minus 30. So that gives us 24 hours. And I can't change what this looks like here, so zoom in if you need to, or take a screenshot at the end and then you can zoom in. Okay, so then the scheduled flying time for this last leg, scheduled. This is our AC aircraft fly. We are scheduled at 1:49. So we're going to subtract, I don't know why it went away, 24 minus 149. So 22:11. 149 equals 22:11. So the door in Miami needs to be closed at 22:11. Otherwise I will be illegal after that point. And the same rules apply for having conversations regarding voluntary extension or not, give the company a call, crew tracking, if it's getting close to that and you have questions on your legalities. Before I move on, are there any other questions with this? Does anybody want me to redo anything? Does anybody want a further explanation on something or have questions? This is the big one that we get all the time that everybody can do themselves and know when do we go illegal. There's no reason we are the keepers of that. We can all do the math. It's very easy. It's just a matter of learning what to click, and truly it's a time calculator. I've seen people do it on a napkin, and I don't know how they do that math without a calculator. So there is that. Does anybody have any questions with that before we move on?
And
Okay.
just know,
Yes.
VE is individual, right? Like if you fly international or if you're one, we really like for the lead or the number one to go around and ask people if you want to extend. You do not ever have to extend. If that flight cancels because I choose not to extend, I don't care. I'm not going to extend for the money. But that's good money, I will tell you, or you might want to get home. But know that there's no peer pressure. You do what you want to do for you.
Yes, it's an individual decision, and people, I mean, I was on a trip where I was not willing to extend because I was exhausted and I felt almost pressured, and that was unfortunate, but I was unwilling to extend. So I didn't, and the flight did not go because of that, and that does happen, but it is your decision to make. With that VE, it is above your reserve guarantee. So if you want to get home, you want that extra money, it goes above your guarantee. It's a separate line on your HI-1, separate line on your pay. So keep that in mind there. And then you can kind of, if that's what you want to do, get that extra money there. And the last thing about VE, voluntary extension, there is on our tablets a form in ECS that talks about VE. That is not you getting VE or extending with the company. That is you simply raising your hand saying, hey, I want to extend if it is offered. That does not mean anything. So if you are 5 minutes from going illegal, the door's open and you fill that out, unless they accept it, unless it is acknowledged by the company and they say, all right, VE has been applied, that does not mean anything. So if you're at your legality, make sure that somebody has a conversation with crew tracking and that is recorded and it's on the HI-3 reflecting VE on your sequence. Otherwise, filling out just that form and leaving it at that does not lock in VE. That is you saying, I want it if it's offered, but they don't, you still have to have it be offered back to you. Are there any questions on VE or anything with regards to reserve? Okay, if there are, throw them in the chat, raise your hand, anything like that. The next piece that I want to talk about is, okay, so I want to say one more thing about that actually. If I do VE or I'm delayed, I'm coming back and I'm illegal for my next assignment, and it's still on there, call scheduling. Just put it on their radar and let them know, hey, these overlap, there's not enough rest, what's going on? Make sure you always have those conversations with them. The next one that we get a lot and we're asked about is when you're flown or assigned into flex days or golden days. So there are two different ways this happens. One, we're assigned a sequence into our flex days. The second is we are not mistakenly, actual operations cause us to be flown into our days off. Two things with this. One, the company can never assign you a trip into your golden day. That cannot happen or should not happen. If I'm out there, my flight cancels, we're delayed, and I subsequently do go into my golden day, that's different. Because they can't control that. If they try to reassign you to different flying, and this is not when your sequence falls apart, it's that straight up different flying, they can't do that into a golden day either. So golden days are very protected with that, but we do get flown into them in actual operations and stuff does happen. We're still entitled to get those days off back, whether it's assigned or actual operations. So keep that in mind. Okay, so if you are flown into your golden day or golden or flex day with actual operations, they're both treated the same. You need to call within 48 hours to make sure you get that day off back. It is a mutually agreed upon day, so I always suggest have 2 or 3 days in mind that you want, that line up back up to other days off, unless you only have like one option, then they can't really do much of that. But have 2 or 3 because it is mutually agreed upon. So they might say no to that first one. You can say, all right, this one, and then, eventually you'll get a day. It's normally weighted, if they deny anything, it'll be more of a due to staffing or like, oh, I want Christmas off or something like that, that they're always going to say no to. So make sure you have a backup plan. Even if you get your day off back, the pay will go above your guarantee. So keep that in mind. The daily rate will go above your guarantee. You'll get the day off back. In the chat, Stephanie just put in there on the job information, especially that's helpful for reserves, flex day, golden day, where the pay will go and how that will look. The second type is that if we're assigned a sequence into our flex day, whether I'm on wrap or rota runs, it does happen. If Dre, me, Steph, if everybody on this call is good for 2 days on reserve and they have to fly somebody, no, wait, what's a good example? We're all good for 1 day. No, what's the example I'm trying to give? If everybody on this call is on reserve, they can't fly us into our days off unless they've used everything else. So if Jason is good for 3 days and I'm good for 3 days, even if he's below me on the list, they should give him that trip first. But if we're all the same, they're going to go down and see who needs to be flown into our days off. And that is 12K2 of the CBA that explains the order of open time. So it does happen. It shouldn't happen all the time. It does happen. But 12K2 of the CBA talks about order of open time. And I think it's step 7 or 8 when they will start flying people into their flex days. So it is further down the list, and they should do 1 through 7 before it gets down to that. So keep that in mind. It does happen. You're still entitled to get those days off back. If you ever have questions, please ask scheduling. We also get that. Oh, Dre was skipped. Jason was skipped. Justin was skipped. Why? We got to look everything up, and we were happy to do it. But the company is the one assigning it. The company is the one who clicked that program. It is okay to ask them questions. That is not you pushing back. That's not you saying, I'm not going to do it. It's you trying to understand the system. So why was Dre skipped? Can you please help me understand? They will teach you, or they should teach you and tell you why. It'll help you learn. So if anybody above you's ever skipped, go ahead and touch base with scheduling. With that, oftentimes the call-out report is not live. So if Dre and I are both assigned when Rota runs, or when that Rota daily runs, it still might show Dre is available, but she's actually been assigned something, or out sick, or has a legality issue in that moment, so it might not capture it. So keep that in mind. It might show with somebody available. If you have questions, call scheduling and say, hey, why does it show this person is available? And they should explain to you a little more on that. Anything that I missed or questions on that for being assigned into our days off and what the steps are? And Jason is a BCR in Chicago also. He joined. If you have anything to add, Jason, feel free, but that's a big one too. So keep that in mind. Flying into flex days, it happens. The last bit that we want to talk about is rest periods. There's 2 types of rest: at home or on a layover. So at home, we get our minimum 10-hour rest. So in 2022, it used to be 8 hours. That was for layover and at home, but now it's changed to 10. So at an absolute minimum, 10 hours. Contractually, reserves are entitled to 12 hours plus debrief. So if I have a trip tomorrow, rota ran, or I have it on my days off, something happened, and I always had legal rest. And for whatever reason, I now am at 10 hours and 5 minutes rest between the two sequences because I was delayed over here and they assigned me this sequence. You can still call scheduling and say, hey, I have less than contractual rest. Can you go ahead and take a look at that? They should remove you. If you always had legal rest or above contractual rest and now you have less than contractual, they should remove that. If it falls below 10, they should get an alert and automatically remove you. But stuff happens. So if you have less than 10 hours, give them a minute for it to be flagged, but they usually wait till you get home, you land back in base, and then they'll remove it if there is a legality issue. So if there are issues, please touch base with them on that. This is on the APFA website, the rest periods, as well as on the PBS cover sheet. There's a lot of helpful information, and that's in crew portal, departments, I think it's scheduling. No, what is it? I don't know. Departments. Dre's making a face. So
I know,
trying to
because
think
I'm
of it.
thinking, is it under the in-flight admin? I'd have to look.
It's in
It's in-
departments.
And I know that that's on the cover sheet of the bidding cover sheet as well.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, the PBS cover sheet. So, it's departments. I wrote it down somewhere. Anyway, departments, and then crew planning is where it is. Click crew planning, and then click PBS. It doesn't matter what month, current month, bid sheet. Click it, and then it says cover sheet. There's a lot of helpful charts in there. Stephanie put the home base rest one in there. There's plenty more helpful charts on there. So I always encourage people have that saved. Take screenshots of the charts in there. So crew portal, departments, crew planning, PBS cover sheet.
Mhm.
Any questions on home base rest? The next we're going to talk about is layover rest. Okay. If there is, raise your hand, chime in, throw it in the chat. Okay, so layover rest. This also changed in 2022 when the law changed. We used to only have 8 hours minimum as an FAR. That's a federal aviation regulation. The unions lobbied on behalf, and so if you donate to the PAC, thank you. That's what happens behind the scenes is we are able to lobby government to improve work conditions for safety reasons. We used to only have 8 hours behind layover rest. Now we have 8 hours, or excuse me, 10 hours. So if you're on a trip, the lowest your ODL when you look at your HI3, the lowest your ODL on duty layover should show is 10. So keep that in mind. There are times where I'm on a delay, we're taxiing out, and it shows 9:45. That's okay. Scheduling gets an alert on that. So when you land, it should say 10 hours, or at least an absolute minimum of 10 hours. If for whatever reason, when you land, and this doesn't happen very often, only in like IROPS or crazy situations, they always catch that. So if it shows less than 10, call tracking and say, hey, our layover shows this, what's going on? Keep that in mind. So we always have 10 hours. Layover is the absolute minimum that it can show. With that, we get 10 hours ODL, layover time. Stuff happens though to where it takes us a while to get to our hotel. So if you have 25 wheelchairs, you're flying somewhere in Florida, you have transportation issues, the company takes a minute to get us a hotel. If you get to your hotel room, you get upstairs and we are guaranteed 8 hours behind the door. So let's say I get up there and I realize with pickup and me closing the door, I'm only at 7 hours behind the door. Call tracking. Hey, I just got to my room. It's 10:30 p.m. X, Y, and Z happened. They should say, okay, let me take a look and adjust your sequence as needed, adjust your pickup as needed, whatever needs to happen. But we are always guaranteed 8 hours behind the door. So keep that in mind that And they don't know that, right? Like they don't know that you were stuck in traffic or there was a hotel transportation issue or 47 wheelchair. They don't know. So unless you tell them, they won't know. Simply call tracking, put it on their radar, ask what they need to adjust to get you that 8 hours behind the door. That's a big one that people, so it's 10-hour layover, 8 hours behind the door. So it's not 10 behind the door, it's 8. And the 8 is contractual, the 10 is a law. So those are the two differences there. Are there any questions on rest of any kind? Okay. That's the last piece I have for the, or Dre, did you want to add anything on the rest piece?
Nope.
Okay. So that's all I have for the two pieces that we kind of wanted to really talk about that we were asked on and that are big questions with everyone. So that being said, I'm gonna just hit the bullet points, acknowledge, screenshot, check your HI10M, talk to the company, call tracking, call scheduling, ask them questions, reach out to us if you have anything. But always start with the company, ask them questions, learn, and then we are okay to question it and do all of that. That is okay. That being said, does anybody have any other questions that weren't addressed, concerns, scenarios that they want to talk about? And if you do have them and you don't want to talk about them now, you can also email us. I will put that in the chat, and we can follow up with you later. But anything? All right. If there aren't, oh, I see somebody typing, so I'll talk for a second more. I can talk. You can also say it out loud if you want to, but feel free to throw it in there. If you have anything, always reach out. But the one other thing on probation that is stressful is when you get anything, the company is going to ask you questions. You're on probation. It's the trial period. Don't panic. If you've done nothing wrong, you were following the rules. I got a late report because it was less than 2-hour call out. Take a deep breath. It'll be okay. You followed the rules. Make sure you just talk to management. Okay, so the question is, how does sick time work? I've heard something about kin care. So sick time, we accrue 4 hours and 30 minutes per month of sick time. That's part one of the question. The second part is there's Illinois kin care. That was included, I think it was page 11 of that packet that we gave out at InDoc. But we'll put it in the chat. There was a hotline that came out, I think last year or recently, with Illinois kin care information. So Illinois kin care is an Illinois law that was passed in, I want to say 2020. Well, it's been a law for a while. When it first went into effect, it did not include aviation workers. The airlines we were kept out of it. Thanks to lobbying from the unions, Dre and I were down in Springfield. They amended the law to cover everybody in the state of Illinois. So we are able to call out sick to care for our kin, hence the name kin care. It is not for us. When we do that, it is a non-punitive sick call, i.e. on probation, it won't be counted as a sick call held against you if you do it correctly. The key with Illinois kin care, and Stephanie just put it in the chat, so please make sure you save that and read it. If you have questions, ask us. But the key for Illinois kin care is that it is paid. So like I said earlier, we get 4 hours and 30 minutes a month. I'm going to just make a very simple example here. I have 3 reserve days available. I need to care for my father. I only have 4 hours and 30 minutes of sick time. A reserve day is worth either 4 hours and 10 minutes or 3 hours and 56 minutes. It depends if it's a 30-day month or a 31-day month. So in this scenario, each reserve day is its own entity. So I need to have enough paid time to touch each day. I have 4 hours and 30 minutes. Let's say they're worth 410. So I have enough sick time to call out sick this day. It is fully paid. This day is partially paid. It is touched with pay. Great. I can submit for recode. This day, however, will be 100% not touched with pay. Therefore, I would get a point for it. So if you call out sick for all 3 days and submit a recode, they will recode 2 of those days. That third one won't be. So if you plan on utilizing kin care, make sure that you have enough paid time available to touch each day or trip or entity, whatever it is. Read the Illinois kin care brief that we put in there. That's my super basic example. The key is that it's paid. If you have questions, feel free to ask. The one big thing with that is that it is for other people, not ourselves. So if you are using that, you select which family member it is for, and you fill out the form. That's through Comply. So if I call out sick for one day, have enough time, I fill that out there. That's Illinois kin care. Did I leave anything out, Dre?
No, perfect. And
Okay.
definitely please reach out to us the first time. It's easy to do, but let us know.
Yes. And yeah, if you have questions with that, reach out because it's not complicated, but it is a little nuanced. So if you want to just confirm your understanding of it, hey, I have to go out sick for these days. I have this much time. Does it sound like it'll work? Yes. We're happy to do that. The next question is, can we waive minimum arrest to work more than 6 days? If I'm on standby, okay, so there's 2 parts to that. One question is, can we waive minimum rest to work more than 6 days? The 7-day is an FAR legality, so it's not contractual, it's an FAR legality. So we can't do anything to avoid a 7-day legality. We can work 7 days in a row. What the law and rules require is that we have 24 hours off. So if I'm on wrap A on day 6, that ends at 2 p.m. So on day 7, I can fly, but I have to fly after I have 24 hours off. So we are able to work on the 7th day. It is a squeeze 24 is what we used to call it. A squeeze 24, not a calendar day. So keep that in mind that we can, but you can't waive it if it would result in less than 24 hours in a 7-day period. And the second part of the question is, if I'm on standby and don't get used, can I opt to go onto wrap same day and try to get a sequence? No, you can't, because when we are on standby, it triggers legalities. So if your standby started at 12 and you get off at 6 p.m., I was on duty for those hours, and so therefore we can't just continue that. So it's considered a sequence, it's considered being on duty, it triggers legality. So once you're on that, it triggers those legalities. Once your standby is over, it then releases you into rest. So there's that.
Also, Justin, looking at that question, will you touch on a standing bid? Because we get calls about, can they do this to me?
Yes, so that's a good one. And we did get that. Standing bids, I'll use IPD as an example. We're all new. We all want to fly the good trips. I want to go to Athens. I want to go to Paris, wherever it is. So you're going to put in a standing bid and hope that you get called. What happens sometimes is people forget that they have those, and then it will be their day off. And they'll get a call from scheduling saying, oh, I gave you got Athens. It reports in 2.5 hours. And they're, at a restaurant. They're having a good time with their friends. Be mindful of standing bids. I like them if you want to utilize them, but be careful. Standing bids are dangerous, especially standing aggressive bids, because you're just throwing up your hands saying, I want this, which is fine. But if we are not here or don't want to work and you accidentally have that in, you can get caught up in that. So if you're going to put in a standing aggressive bid, remember that you have that in there. I would encourage you not to. I would do it day by day on what you are willing to fly, because we've seen it more times than you could imagine, and you'll do it once and never again. But if you ask for it, it's a computer. It will give you what you're legal for. So if it gets to Dre and she's got a standing aggressive bid in and she's trying to go to brunch with her friends on her day off, the system will give it to you if it can. So keep in mind for standing aggressive bids that those are dangerous. If you forget about them. Any other questions, anybody? If not, email us, anything like that. Yes, Jason.
Justin, just to add to the standby question about if they could go for something else. I know in the CBA we have some new language that I was curious if you've seen anyone actually utilize it to extend their standby shift. That's something that was in 12F that's new from the CBA. I remember that they can go from 4 to 6 or 6 to 8. Have we seen that get utilized yet?
I have not, well, I haven't seen it utilized yet, but I would imagine that it does get utilized because I know people, if you commute, you get a standby, you can go ahead and call and say, hey, can you extend that? So I haven't seen that yet. I'm sure that it has happened. And especially during IROPS or storms, the company would love that. So if you're supposed to get off, at 7 p.m., and you see that there's a trip that leaves at 8 and you think, oh, maybe I could get that, go ahead and call. And all you have to do is call scheduling and have that conversation with them. There's a lot of new schedulers, so if they don't know that provision in the contract, you can say, hey, can I talk to the senior? It says this, can we go ahead and talk about it? So keep that in mind that you can. And all you have to do is call scheduling. Thank you, Jason. That's a good one because I haven't seen that yet, but I'm sure that it is used because people want to extend their standbys a lot of times. If you're there, you might as well try to get something. That would be my logic, at least.
And then my last question, will you talk about back-to-back reps? Because you know how we get I was on rep A, how could they put me on rep A again?
So rep is different than being on a sequence or a standby. It doesn't trigger any legalities. Well, I shouldn't say any. It still triggers, like I talked about that 7-day one, it triggers that, but it doesn't trigger rest. So if I'm on rep if I'm on rep D today, it ends at 10 p.m. That does not mean I have 12 hours rest after that. If the system can do it, it will, but it doesn't have to. So if I'm on wrap C that ends at 10 p.m., I can be on wrap A the next day. We don't get rest after wrap. That's the rule. And I know sometimes people think that that's wrong. Unfortunately, wraps don't trigger rest. We would need a lot more people on reserve if that was the case. The system does try to give that 12 hours, but it doesn't happen very often just because there's so many reserves and so many rules when it comes to our wraps. So that doesn't always happen. And back in the day when Dre and I were on flying reserve and Stephanie started, we were on call 24 hours a day. So it's a little better now, but it does suck when you get a back-to-back. I do know that. So, but technically, yes, they can do that. I was going to say one other piece there. Oh, I will elaborate a little bit on that. So let's say I'm on wrap C. Yeah, wrap C tomorrow. Rota ran, it gives me, no, not C. We'll say B tomorrow. I start at 5 a.m. I'm on a trip today that gets back at 4:30 p.m. That's legal. I have 12 hours rest. When Rota runs, it will check the legality of the trip that you're on. So it'll say, oh, Justin has 12 hours. I can put him on wrap B. Let's say we circle, we take forever to get a gate, all very likely to happen. We then park at the gate at 6 p.m. I now have less than 12 hours between release and report or start time of my wrap. Scheduling is not going to automatically remove you. All you have to do is call us, say, hey, I have less than 12 hours from release to report, or not report, release and the start of my wrap. They will move you to the next available wrap. They can ask, hey, do you want me to just adjust the start time of it? You can say sure if you want. You can say no, just move me to wrap C, whatever. But they're not going to do it unless you tell them. So keep that in mind that you've got to put that on their radar too. The last thing I'm going to say on wraps is on wrap D, which is 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. Once the last departure today has left, you can call scheduling and say, hey, the last flight is left. Can you release me from the remainder of my wrap? This is a huge improvement from what we used to have. We used to not be able to do this. And wrap D was always getting called for the super early trip. So if it is 11 p.m., 12 p.m., and there are no more departures in Chicago, you can absolutely call scheduling and say, hey, I'm on wrap D. Are there any other departures scheduled for tonight? Is anything delayed, whatever. If there aren't, they should release you and you're done for that wrap. It's over. So keep that in mind that you don't have to sit that whole wrap. They're not going to do that automatically either. You're going to have to call them. So keep that in mind that you don't have to sit around and wait for that, but they're not going to do it unless you ask them specifically, hey, is every departure gone? Okay, can you go ahead and release me? And that is a improvement over what the old language was in the CBA. And I was going to look up something in crew portal.
Good, because Rose is typing. Is
Yes, this is in writing. It's in the CBA. Let me see.
Let me see.
It's
12G1.
Yes, 12G1. So I'll put a screenshot in there, but it's 12G1 of the CBA that talks about that. So if you guys haven't downloaded that CBA and don't have it, read it in your spare time. It's a great read. So make sure that you have it down, especially on reserve and probation. 12, section 12 is where the reserve rules come from. So that's always a good one. I'm a big fan of reading. So 12G is where that one is stated. So that's that. Is there anything else that Dre that we got that I left out?
No, I just want to say apfa.org, really go on, look under on the job, reserve resources. They really have so much quick information that puts it in layman's terms, not like the CBA where it's like legalese. So go in and look at that and look at their examples.
Yes. Always ask questions, read, look, most of it is on the website or the CBA. Also, I'm a big fan of asking the company questions. If you have a question, ask your manager. I love saying, have you asked your manager that? A double up is where I have one sequence that ends and another one starts. So let's say I am on a sequence today. It was one leg from Milwaukee. I don't know why Milwaukee. One leg from one short flight, St. Louis. It lands at 12, and there's a trip that leaves at 2 p.m. that I'm legal for. It reports at 2 p.m. You can say allow double up, and the company will, if it can, and if it's legal, say, all right, we will give you this second trip and continue your duty period. So it enables people to fly a lot. So if you have an easy trip today and you see one tomorrow that you want, and you say, well, if it can go ahead and mush these two together, I will do that. When you do that, you revert to the 15 hours on duty in actual operations. So keep that in mind. It doesn't matter if you signed in at 4 a.m. home base time, you can be on duty for 15 hours. But it does allow people to get more time in for the month. And that's on apfa.org too. There's a whole double up section with that gives a little more information with that. That's all I got. Thank you for everybody coming, for everybody who's going to watch it. Probation's hard. Being new is hard. There's lots of stuff that we don't know yet, and that is okay. It's very it takes a long time to learn a new language, and that's what being in the airline is, and all these systems are. So it will take a while. There's 5 more new hire classes, as far as I know, that are scheduled to come to Chicago. So wherever you are seniority-wise, you have 5 more classes coming, unless you're that 5th class watching this now, and then you got a minute longer before you get some seniority on that. But they are coming. So if you have questions, reach out, apfa.org, management, text us, email, and thank you. Anything else?
I just wanted to say Dre and Justin worked really hard on all of these links that we provided in the chat. So even just keeping this chat would be a really good resource for you, because you can just click on these links and go back. So that's why they have those in there for you. So I wanted to say thank you for working so hard on having that put together.
Of course. No, and that's a good one. And that's where the hotlines, I'll end with this. If you haven't signed up for the APFA hotlines, which if you're on here, that means you probably did, because you either got the email or that text. And so this is for you guys, this is for friends, this is for everybody. Make sure you ask, hey, did you get that hotline? Are you signed up for the hotlines? APFA.org, resources, hotlines, and make sure that you've subscribed to everything. So that way, when there are changes or information, you can read it directly yourself. So we will end with that. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for watching. If you have questions, reach out. All right. Bye.
Thank you, guys.